I'll wait till it shuts down. Danny, you good to go? Okay. I'd like to call the meeting to order, special meeting Wednesday, May 29th at 12 noon. If everyone will stand with me, join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, and we will have a prayer from Councilman Ulrich. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for this opportunity to meet as council in the city of Weimar. We thank you for the wonderful rain. We humbly appreciate everything you bestow on us. We also ask that you look over those not as fortunate as we are and had adverse weather and have to rebuild their lives. Be with them and make them whole. In your name we pray.
Amen. Thank God it's got a spring under it. Okay, so we have a short agenda for us, so I'm going to jump right into it, and I want to welcome the folks that are here today. Agenda item number 3, discussion and approval of awarding bid on rebid of the 2021 Texas CDBG Road Improvements Contract number CDV 21-0195.
Mayor, Council, good afternoon. This project is a project that actually goes back a couple of years ago. So it started about March 2022, and the contractor that won the bid started construction on the project, but shortly thereafter got into abandoned gas line, which halted the project. So long story short, worked through that, but he didn't want to continue work. He didn't want to deal with the gas line, but all that finally got resolved. And then we had to basically start from scratch on rebidding this project. So going back a couple months ago, it went back out for the rebid again. We received no bids at that time. So turned right around and put it back up for bid again. And at that time, last week, we received the one bid, which is the bid before you. So we do have Holly, our engineer, who's put a tremendous amount of work in this here to speak to any details that you might have. Holly, you want to come up?
If you'll step up, introduce yourself, and kind of give us, I guess, a briefing on it, and then they'll probably come up with some questions after, okay?
All right.
Thank you, Holly.
So as Richard has mentioned, good afternoon, Mayor, Council. So we have worked with the city on rebidding this project, and bids were opened on May 24th, this past Friday. Texas Materials Group of Navasota was the only bidder with the base bid of $686,315, which is the pavement portion of North Eagle Street. Pavement and curb and gutter, drainage, different things like that. So the bid alternative number 1 was for $113,650, and that included the water line portion of the North Eagle Street. Bid alternative number 2 included the sanitary sewer portion at $139,146, and then bid alternative number 3 at $1,649,642. That is St. Andrew Street, which is directly to the west of North of Eagle Street. And that is the pavement portion, water portion, and sanitary sewer portion. So you can see how that number is quite a bit higher than the 3 previous bids. So as mentioned, we have worked with Texas Materials Group before. However, these numbers were higher than the cost opinion that we presented to the city, which we never like to be the highest bidder, much less only receive 1 bid. So the first rebid, we had 2 contractors that said that they were going to bid the project, and had another contractor that said maybe. I came here to City Hall for that bid opening, and we didn't have any bids. That's always unfortunate when we're, working with the contractors, trying to communicate with them. So we reached back out to them, and they said at the last minute, they weren't able to get their numbers pulled together, which has happened on some projects, but normally we're able to receive at least 1 or 2. This time around, we had a couple contractors that were stating they would bid again, and we just received the 1 bid. The city did receive another second bid after the bid opening time, but in accordance with rules and stuff, especially with the Texas Department of Agriculture, you cannot open that bid, and it has to be sent back to the contractor. So as presented, these numbers, my cost opinion was around $650,000 for the base bid, bid alternative 1, and bid alternative 2. So we gather a cost opinion based on previous bids that we've seen in the area and around the state. We inflate those. I also inflated those numbers from, I believe this was bid in 2022 previously. I inflated those numbers based on cost indices online. So yeah, my number of $650,000 is significantly less than the base bid, alternative 1 and alternative 2, which I believe we calculated at around $950,000 or so.
Yes.
So at this time, I'm here to answer any questions that the city may have.
Okay, so this program, so what is our portion of this? Because it's a grant, correct?
The grant covers about $300,000, I believe.
So
Yes,
it's
350.
350,000, so we're on the hook for whatever combination we would decide.
Correct. And when it was previously bid with WJC, that was the awarded contractor originally, I believe that bid came in around $550,000. But that did not include, that was just pavement for Eagle Street and St. Andrews.
Yes.
And then once the gas line was discovered shallower than what the gas company had informed us for it to be, that was when the city decided those utilities are in bad shape as well underneath those streets. It's clay lines, and then the water line is a 2-inch, which they decided to upgrade to a 6-inch. But yeah, so that's why we also included utilities in the project.
Do we have any budget provision for any kind of number? If this is strictly, here it is. If you want to take it.
What have we already spent for, didn't we spend something a few months ago when the other contractor decided to terminate? 30,000?
Yeah, 30,000 to him, yeah.
550 was for Eagle and St. Andrews.
Oh, well. Yeah, the original plan was for both of those streets, so
Just the paving section,
just the paving.
portion of the streets.
So
It didn't include any utilities at that time.
the base bid is only, you said North Eagle, just the pavement and curb?
So there's definitely more work involved now, but there's also the increased cost of the materials and the construction as well. So it's multiple factors why there's such a significant increase. It's kind of like though, if you get in there and you tear out the road, you might as well go ahead and replace the water line and sewer line, because the last thing you want to do is spend all this money, put it in a new road, and then 6 months later, you got a water main break. And then you're leaving the situation with an inferior water line or sewer line, so.
What size line is in that?
It's 2-inch water line
The
2-inch
water,
line?
it's a, yeah,
on both
Well,
streets.
Those services were real shallow, so they had to be replaced anyway.
And if we did North Eagle Street, is St. Andrews gonna be an issue a year from now?
Well, they're both kind of at the same point, so it's, if you justify one, then you're doing justification for the other as well. So
Hasn't
it's-
it been kind of an ongoing problem that just needs to be addressed?
Well, they have, the biggest challenge to both of those streets is their width. So they're very narrow streets. There are 2 narrowest streets in town. So, and which creates challenges, so access challenges for emergency services. So the street is in need of repairs. But from a surface repair standpoint, I don't know that it rates any worse than some of the other streets, but from the narrow perspective, it certainly is, those two are highest.
That would be corrected in
It
this
needs
project.
to be corrected. But it's just, at what point, it's a lot of money to commit to,
So at the bid opening, the contractor has offered to look into different cost savings options. However, being that the bid opening was on Friday, it would require some additional time for him to get numbers and us to check in with Terracon. So they did the geotechnical report and recommended the pavement section for this project. So we would have to talk with the contractor, talk with them, and just timing was a little bit of an issue.
one of the things we discussed too is that the piers is not necessary procedure, that engineer design is sufficient for that, and that was one of the issues that we got into with this project, was peering into the abandoned gas lines, and really that's not a necessary factor for this, so we could eliminate the peering of that and still be quality curbs because of the way the foundation is laid, so you can speak to that more, but the design for the curb is sufficient to meet the needs. So, am I saying that right, Holly?
Correct. So a standard engineering detail for a curb and gutter would be stabilization 1 foot beyond, in back of the curb and gutter, and then just pouring that concrete. But this project, at the time that we designed it, meeting with previous city staff, it was noted that the city wanted to include curb piers, which would go an additional 2 foot deeper into the soil to stabilize the curb from rolling in the future. Standard detail, stabilizing a foot past curb, I mean, you know, it's, normally it would be a life lifespan of at least 20, 30 years, but it's dependent on the soil in the city too, so.
So eliminating those piers there would be cost savings there, but is it enough to, move the needle? I don't know, but we wouldn't be removing any abandoned gas line, and they wouldn't be drilling piers, so, which the bid did factor those costs into this project. One of the things I want to work on next year is to do a total assessment of all of our streets and just see what condition are all of our streets and drainage in, and to develop a plan of how would we, assess them overall and put together a plan to, start addressing our streets just in general. How would this factor into that? I don't know, but it is on our plan to work towards.
You guys mentioned the word safety, so I'm gonna turn to the firemen here. You've always been able to get in and out of those streets so far, right?
Well, it's just right in, it gets really congested before, farther north you go.
So, and I think we kind of had that in a meeting at one time, that we adjusted that they were only allowed to park on one side of the street, which allowed that access for EMS and fire to go through it. So I don't know if that's being,
Timing is everything.
yes, yeah, well, absolutely. It's part of y'all's decision because the safety word came out, and I wanted to address that with y'all. That we had kind of done some work to make it easier access. Now, I don't drive down the street that often, so I don't know if everybody parks on one side, but that's what, I think, I'm not even using the word ordinance is correct, but it should make it available still to be safe.
Are our other curbs with the piers? I mean, I've lived here all my life, I couldn't tell you what's underneath the curb. Certainly, we weren't doing piers way back then, so it's just something we,
That's probably why most of them are like this.
yeah, probably so.
But they weren't poured a foot past the curb either. They were just poured
Poured
at
at
the
Poured,
edge,
right.
which is
Yeah.
why they're rolling.
Yeah,
So, and I'm not an engineer, so I don't need to speak up, Holly.
Yeah, I mean, regarding the soils and stuff, we would, refer to the geotechnical engineer, which was Terracon on this project, and they were the ones that did the borings and recommended the pavement section. But, I mean, our standard, like I said, probably 50 years ago, most likely the curbs were just poured as is, with no stabilization a foot past the curb. Not saying that maybe that was done, but I do know that the soils here and around this area are very, fluctuate quite a bit. So I would say that the piers may not be necessary, but again, I have not been involved in the recent projects where y'all have done piers.
Weimer's got that, so, Blackland.
We've had some curbs poured that have piers, and they didn't hold structure like they should have within the last
Okay.
3 years.
On the curbing, is it just like the regular kind of curb, like around a residential, or, because, being that that road is so tight through there, like around Schaefer Field where we did that, there was a different type of curb that went around it.
Roll up.
That roll up, would that be an option to maybe save a little bit at the same time to where if they could actually park a little further over, would widen it up a little bit? Just a thought or a suggestion.
So I think you're referring to a laydown curve?
Correct, yes.
Which, that could be an option. I don't know how much of a cost savings that would be.
Gotcha.
I would have to go with the contractor on that.
Just a.
But the project itself did include widening the streets.
Okay.
So,
Okay, so this grant is like a couple of years old. I'm I'm just wondering, do we lose points if we just go, you know, we need to try again? Or would it be more money?
Well, and speaking
knows?
with our grant administrator, so there would be, I don't wanna say penalized for that, but each grant that is applied for, you're awarded points for the merits of the situation. And each year, they change the value and the rating of that. So in the future, when we apply for grants, it might be that we wouldn't rate as high for that grant as what we would have had we finished this project. So we're not being assessed a penalty, we're just not getting as many points as we could have.
Which could affect those future projects.
It
we were
could,
talking
it
about.
could,
And then their standards could change as well for the grant.
right.
That's just kinda
Is-
tough to go 2 years down the road and
Just-
not knowing what their standards are gonna be.
A question for the city. Is the city considered low to moderate income citywide?
No,
We would just ride over.
Yep. And
So that's another factor to think about. A lot of cities, you know, they're not as concerned about losing points on future grants because of the fact that they only have a certain area that they can use those grants on. And so they've already like done projects in those areas. So that's just something that has come up recently.
I mean, I've got a hard time swallowing 1.3 million. To do it, I know it needs to be done, but if we don't do the grant, if we went back out to rebid, we've only done this twice. Do you really think we would even bid more than
I don't.
this?
yes, she does.
Well, if we did both streets, we're at 2.5 million.
Yes, so the one street is 939, just call it 940,000. And then the bid alternative, number 3, that's a separate street at 1.6.
That's the answer.
Yep. Two different things.
So you'd have the 900 and the 1.6.
Yep.
That's 50% of our cash. I don't know how that's feasible.
There seems to be the hesitation on the bids.
In talking with the contractors, a lot of them are busy right now. This is a smaller sized project. A lot of them are going after, you know, multi-million-dollar projects. And they also mentioned the area. Not as many contractors are, you know, located in this vicinity, and it's a longer drive for them is what they've mentioned, so. Which,
kinda
you
need to
know,
make
we
it
haven't had
worthwhile.
that,
Yeah.
Correct.
yeah, we haven't really dealt with that in the past, but
Yeah,
I
coming
guess.
here to do one street's probably not worthwhile to them, so the price is what it is. I don't know that for a fact, I'm just.
Is that something we could go out and put out that we want to replace water and sewer lines to get a few pops or something to give us a bid on that? And then we come back and go out for 3 bids separately.
Good?
That's correct.
Yes.
Yeah, so Texas Materials is more of a paving company. I already know that the concrete work and the utility work would be done by a subcontractor with them. So when you're dealing with subcontractors too, there's probably the additional price markup as well.
And then where do they stand because they're subbing it out to somebody? How quick will that be in line with
We
what?
could be our own contractor, really.
It could be.
Yes, we could.
So
Great
I
point,
think
by the way.
just because this might not be the option we pursue doesn't necessarily mean that it doesn't get, addressed down the road. But I think it could be factored into our bigger picture when, once we assess all of our streets and see how do they rate and where does each street fall in line compared to another based on several factors.
It would
Is
make
there
a whole
like
lot more sense over the long run.
Is there like a drop dead date on this?
the money, it is.
We have a deadlines for the grant to meet, yes. So.
Which has been extended.
Which is,
Extended.
So the reason for
Can't
this
stop dating
special,
anymore, yeah.
special meeting this week was that we had to make an award to a contractor by the end of May. So May is
Oh, wow.
the this Friday
tomorrow.
is the beginning of May.
I just don't see that this makes any sense as it is presented today. Just my opinion.
I think Richard can come up with some alternative options down the road if you guys decided not to, but that's your investment. As in layman's terms, you cut your ties now, and it still gets done on the road, because it serves its purpose at the moment. It's just looking for an improvement.
I think it needs to be covered, I think we're gonna need to look at.
Yeah, that's a
I
lot.
really like your ideas as far as just looking at a broader spectrum of what needs to be done. And make it more inclusive. Then maybe we could attract more bidders because the project would be,
Well, you can split it up.
yeah,
We can get a pavement contractor exclusive.
yeah.
H&H has been working for us for 100 years. But they didn't want to mess with water and sewer.
They couldn't find a contractor that would subcontract.
Correct.
Water
Yeah,
is-
we were in contact with them as
Yeah.
well.
Just a small project, but a big price.
Yes.
You know, so maybe we are dealing with, you know, someone that's not giving us the best bang for the buck because of, you know, like H&H is more tuned to smaller projects.
And they're more local, because they do our streets otherwise.
I like that.
And other options may come up down the road. Any more discussion? So this is an approval item. If there is no motion, then the approval will die for a lack of a motion. So I'm just tossing it out. Is there any other discussion? Then I will call for a motion if there's not. And by all means.
David, what do you think?
I was thinking that it was just a lot of projects that we need, and it'll all come to light during our budget talks, that maybe have higher priorities that are gonna affect more residents. And perhaps later on, we could go out for a CO and include, several items into that CO, and
So how much time do we have on the current one?
How many times, how many years?
20, 30.
It was a 30-year, wasn't it? And I think we have six-ish, maybe. Danny, you know that off the top of your head?
the last one is, March of 2030.
Yep, that's what I thought. Okay,
8 more payments.
8 more payments.
And those payments are at $200,000. Yeah. But that's something we could think about, and how rates go.
Okay. Any more questions? I'm not rushing, I'm just... Okay, so I'll call for a motion. Okay, hearing none, I'll make a second call for a motion. Okay, motion dies for lack of a motion. Approved. Agenda item number 4, citizens' comments.
Mayor, I want to recognize Holly and thank her for all the work she's put into this. She has worked a ton on this project, trying to salvage it and get it up and running, and we wouldn't be here without all the work she's done. And also thank Sam with the Grant Works Company. He's part of the team as well, so there was a lot of time involved in this, and it's sad to see it die like this, but, I think that's probably just where we're at, but there was a lot of effort on the backside for this, so thank you, Holly.
Thank you, but don't give
Thank
up
you.
on us.
Yeah. Don't be mad.
Yeah.
We want to
Thank
see
you.
you back. Bye-bye.
Grab a sandwich for lunch on the way out right here.
It's in the next room. Okay, welcome. Any citizens' comments? Council have any comments? You can be a citizen for a moment. You have anything?
No, sir.
Okay.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adjourn at 12:30. Meeting adjourned.